This is Aaron Levine, LG Insurance, with another episode of the And Insurance podcast. We're talking insurance and advocacy and insurance and legislation and insurance and all that fun stuff with my good friend, Casey Yarger, Petri Insurance. Thanks for joining me today. You were just down in Trenton at the State House testifying on behalf of all insurance agents and consumers of insurance throughout the state of New Jersey. So I thought it was pretty cool. And I wanted to figure out a time to get you on video or get you in person to really hear a little bit more about your adventure, so to speak, and learn a little bit more about what you did and how you feel about it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So give me a little 90 seconds. Give us a little 90 seconds. Who is Casey Yarger? And tell me about your agency and the types of business that you work on.
So I've been in the insurance industry about 15 years, a little bit more than that. I work in a small family agency. I'm a fourth generation insurance brat. My great grandfather originally worked in insurance in Manhattan, and my grandfather opened his first agency in New Brunswick. We've been in Milltown, which is dead center of New Jersey, for over 60 years. I predominantly handle commercial accounts, but being a small office, I pretty much have my fingers and hands on a little bit of everything.
I know how that is.
Absolutely. And so I'm a certified insurance counselor, certified risk manager, and in addition to my advocacy with PIA, I guess that's turned me into an insurance expert, so to speak. So this wasn't even my first time testifying down in Trenton. This was my second trip down there to advocate on behalf of all insurance agents in New Jersey and consumers in general.
Right. So, you and I first met when we were coming up through the ranks of the YIPs, the Young Insurance Professionals of New Jersey. We sit on committee together at PIA, Professional Insurance Agents of New Jersey. And now going through the ranks of PIA on the state level is super exciting. So you've been heavily involved in our reg committee, which involves legislative and regulatory issues. And there's a big issue that we've been talking about for a couple of years now. And if you go and Google it, you find a few articles throughout the country on this issue known as step down. So tell me a little bit about what does step down mean?
So a step down provision, it applies to personal auto policies where there's an instance of a driver being involved in an accident and the coverage limit selected and paid for by the insured is reduced based on some of the verbiage in the policy language, some of the technicalities. Specific examples would include, even though listed, your daughter who lives away from the house, and you list her as a driver because she occasionally drives when she comes home. If she were involved in an accident, your full coverage limit may not apply. Another instance is, you're driving your child and another to soccer practice and one of their friends, and you're involved in an accident and with an uninsured motorist, and you don't have enough coverage for your own child. The third party child that would be in your vehicle would have your full limit, but your own child would not.
Got it. I mean, another example in the step down is, children drivers, right, listed on the policy that are then using the vehicle for business purposes also.
Correct. And I think incidental business purposes, you take the mail to drop it off at the end of the day from your office, and on your way you're involved in an accident, and all of a sudden your carrier says no, that was a work related function. Or you're on your way back from lunch and you drop ID cards off at a client's house or something like that, or a client's business. So I think there are certain circumstances where a step down is appropriate, and the state has permitted step downs or complete reduction in coverage when it's instances of committing a crime or things like that. Things from a public policy perspective that we would all understand and agree with. But sure. This is a small caveat within your policy that applies to very specific circumstances, and your average consumer has no idea about something like that in their policy. Even if they read it, it might be confusing to them.
How many of your clients have actually read their auto insurance or any insurance policy for that fact?
I could probably count them on one, maybe two hands, and we have a few thousand clients too.
So I just changed my auto personally, and I was going through my policy. I do not have a step down provision in there. However, there is a very bold misrepresentation provision in the policy, which is also big, bad, and scary. That if anything that you're using your vehicle for changes, even at renewal, and you don't let your carrier know about it, you're misrepresenting how you're using your vehicle, and they can then cancel your automobile insurance policy. So car insurance is scary. It's not supposed to be. But anyway, we're not going into into that piece of it. So tell me about being down in Trenton and what you were representing.
So, there was a bill floating around. It's bill number A-1761, sponsored by the chairman of the Financial Services and Insurance Committee, Assemblyman McKeon. And going down to Trenton, we were there to advocate on behalf of this legislation. We had some pushback from some of the carriers, and ultimately we ended up negotiating with them to come to a compromise that we found was mutually beneficial and pretty much the intent of what we were trying to accomplish, which is prohibiting these step-down provisions. So going down to Trenton, you get all the butterflies. It's a fun thing going down there. You feel like you're really impacting your society and your community in a different
cool.
way. So I, along with our lobbyist from CATS Government Affairs and Brad, our in-house counsel, we testified on behalf of this legislation. Mainly, we were there to explain it. And the intricacies and subtleties of the insurance portion of it to the members of the committee, and answer their questions as they may arise. And honestly, I'd say half of the panel asked a question, and most of them were very poignant and appropriate.
Did any of them hand you their auto policy and be like, do I have this in my coverage?
No, but when we start our presentation on this, we've done it a few times, whether through Zoom or in individual assembly offices.
Right.
We usually start with, after this meeting, you're probably going to want to go check your policy. And a few people look around and you can tell they're probably going to,
Right.
or call their agent.
Right. Or call their agent who might not know about it. And that's one of the other reasons why you're doing this is, and on behalf of PIA, is to help agents become more aware to then better assist and work with their consumers, right? So
absolutely, we have to have people that are keeping an eye on changes and trends in the industry, whether that's from a regulatory or a legislative perspective. And if we're not on top of that and communicating that with the members of PIA and just the community at large, there's nobody out there. I mean, this isn't the kind of stuff that makes it into the newspaper that you're actually going to read, or doesn't show up on your normal feeds. Even mine,
very sexy.
Even being an insurance nerd, this kind of stuff still doesn't end up on my feeds because it's just not buzzy enough.
Right.
Speaking.
No, I agree. And when you Google search it, there's not a whole heck of a lot out there on it. So I don't know how much case law has been presented about it. But, we know it's an issue and it's become an issue. And I've seen it in my office with my insureds where it's actually been enacted. And it's a point of contention, right?
Absolutely. And it becomes a point of contention between the carrier, the agent, and that consumer, that individual. They purchased a policy and they didn't realize necessarily how it applied in very obscure situations. And that's what we really didn't like about it. It feels like a gotcha provision.
Right.
And you can't inherently blame the carriers either, because once the cat's out of the bag, they all have to play catch up, and they all have to start introducing these. Otherwise they lose their competitive edge.
Right.
So once these are available, everybody's going to start using them. But that's why we go down to Trenton and we try to prevent them from being able to.
Right. So now, do we think this is going to get to the governor's desk to be signed off on? Where do you think this sits right now?
I believe it is going to move. On the Senate side, I believe, Senator Cryan is the one working on it on the Senate side, and we are expecting this to move.
That's fantastic.
So the most recent hearing that was held, it advanced out of the committee. This is something that in 2023 we'll probably see signed by the governor.
Okay. I think that's great. I think it's beneficial for the consumers. Hopefully there won't be significant rate that goes along with it, but the carriers have the technology to know who's really driving the cars and what they're doing with them and when they're doing it. I mean, the data is there. So I think we can, use that data, create a better insurance policy for the consumer that really covers what the consumer expects it to be covering, right?
Yep.
And then be able to push forward with all of this.
And obviously, rates are a big concern. As of January 1st, we're all going to have higher rates here in the state of New Jersey for our personal auto by mandate. One nice thing about this legislation, everybody's very concerned about increasing premiums moving forward. Given we're going to see a jump in that in the next year.
Right.
This particular provision will not affect anybody who's already kind of scraping by and has those minimum limits, because they're already at the minimum limits. There's nothing to step down to. So a step down provision when you have a minimum limit policy is irrelevant.
Right. That makes that makes sense. There's nothing left to step down to, but
Right.
As good agents, we try to recommend higher limits to the best of our ability. And when we're able to sell it, it's great to have agents like yourself that I can rely on and count on to call and ask questions to. And, for your customers to know that you're on top of your game, probably significantly more than some other agencies right down the road. Right. So anybody in
Absolutely.
Central Jersey, as Casey puts it, they're right in the middle. If there is a Central Jersey that exists, it is at Petri Insurance. Like, I want to see. I'm sure you have a map with a pin in it, right? That shows exactly, you're right dead center of the state.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hub City is New Brunswick right next door. And that's what it is. It's the hub, the middle of the state.
Right. That's awesome. So what other thoughts or comments do you have that you want to share on step down or any other legislative actions that are being worked on right now?
I mean, there's always a lot of different things floating around out there. Duty of care has been an issue for agents for a very long time in the state of New Jersey. There's a recent court ruling that came out that from the state Supreme Court, which kind of solidifies the position against agents.
Right.
Basically, that we owe a very big duty of care to our customers in excess of what a banker or a lawyer might. So it is a very difficult position to be in, and so that's probably the next big agenda item for our committee.
Okay. I know that's been worked on in the past, and that's a concern for myself and my E&O premium that I pay for my agency and yours as well. When
Absolutely.
We're held to that standard. I just had an issue with an insured where, there was multiple non-pay cancellations, and they just become a D client, not even a C client at that point. And like, oh, why didn't I have this coverage? I'm like, what do you mean? You cannot be canceled 6 times. I should have fired you a long time ago, and now it's my fault.
Right.
So
right.
In those positions, it becomes tough on us. So I'm definitely looking forward to what you have coming next, to what your committee is working on, to all the great things that PAA New Jersey is working on for our member agents, both in New York, New Jersey, and our surrounding New England states, and nationally as well. There's a lot of great things going on nationally. So if you're listening to this or already into this 15th minute, and you're not a PIA member, you should support the PAC and everything that PIA is doing in your local state and on a national level. It'll make you a better agent, and it'll just make you truly a better human being all around. So Casey Yarger, thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to get this posted up and live, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
Awesome.
That was great.